everyone, my name is Deandra Thompson, and today I'll be presenting on mediating race and identity in a sitcom, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Blackness used in movies is a strategy that allows the other black characters to subvert to the traditional image of African Americans offered by the mass media all over the world. The aim of this approach can be considered a way to translate the new Black sociocultural environment of the last decades of the past century in the US, allowing its viewers, where the sitcom was aired, to meet and understand key aspects in the American Black community of that period. Therefore, numerous young Black men had groundbreaking sitcoms. The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air is about a teenager who came from a tough neighborhood in Philadelphia, who had to live with his wealthy relatives. As a result, the Fresh Prince, feeling unfit in his new environment of wealthy African Americans, used humor to commingle. So today, I'll be presenting on applying the inferiority theory to 3 episodes, focusing on the issues of classism, internalized racism, and racial stereotypes, illustrating how race and identity has been a covert struggle for Black youth. The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was aired in 1990. In this popular African American sitcom, Will Smith, who is the main actor, is a street smart teenager from West Philadelphia. He is sent to live with his wealthy relatives in their Bel-Air mansion in Los Angeles, California, by his mother after getting into a fight with some thugs while he was playing basketball. His relatives include Philip Banks, Will's strict and gruff uncle, who is a successful lawyer, and Vivian Banks, no nonsense and career minded aunt, who is a university professor. Other members of the Banks family include Carlton Banks, Will's preppy and arrogant cousin, Hilary Banks, Will's attractive but dull-witted eldest cousin, Ashley Banks, Will's youngest cousin who often looks up to Will, and Jeffrey, the family's cynical butler. Will's working class background ends up clashing in various humorous ways with the upper class world of the Banks, and frequently got him or other members of the family into trouble as well. Inferiority theory. What is inferiority theory? According to Robert Solomon, he offers a definition of inferiority theory of humor. He thinks that self-recognition in the silly antics and self-deprecating behavior of the Three Stooges, which is a hilarious movie, is characteristics of a source of humor based in inferiority or modesty. In other words, it is when someone makes fun of themselves or a situation, like that one class clown who does foolish things to make others laugh. In this case, it's Will Smith. Today I'll be focusing on 3 episodes in Season 1. Season 1, Episode 1, The Fresh Prince Project. Will has arrived. It's only Philly to LA, but Will feels like a brother from another planet in his new home. It starts by Will banging on the door and singing "Back to Life" by Soul to Soul. He's met by the butler, who we then referred to as Massa, who we might know who was a slave master back in the day. Sometime later, he meets his aunt and uncle, who invites him to a dinner party later that night. Inferiority theory can be applied here at the dinner party with all the rich family and wealthy friends who were downstairs. Will had made an appearance wearing a bow tie, but with a funky colored top and jacket, not to mention his colorful hat. You can see it in the image below. Classism can be seen as a result of Will feeling inferior to his relatives, butler, and the members and his friends at the dinner party. It was a clash of classes, so that's why Will was dressed more informally to a formal gathering. Will expresses internalized racism via a rejection of their cultural practices, despite them being of the same ethnic groups, because it wasn't similar cultural practices as his, because he wasn't used to having fancy dinner parties. Season 1, Episode 3, Cubba Hubba. To impress a young lady, Will takes perfect gentleman lessons from Carlton, his cousin. Dr. No is the young lady's father, whose alias was because of his constant saying no to his potential suitors for his daughter. Will, wanting to impress him, wears fancy clothing and scores a date with his daughter Mimi later on that night. At the ball, inferiority theory can be applied, as Will makes fun of himself, goofing off, wearing a tuxedo and a tie. He ensures that he adds his own self deprecating craziness with a hat and sunglasses because he finds out that Mimi prefers a defiant man. And in this case, which man wears a tuxedo with a sunglasses and a hat? Classism can also be seen here, as Will felt inferior to the lifestyle of a proper man. He was from the lower class, as stated earlier, so he wasn't used to having to wear tuxedos and ties and taking girls on fancy dates. Racial stereotypes was Will being a defiant gangster simply because of his race. Will was African American, and not only then but now, African Americans are sometimes seen as defiant gangster like people. Season 1, Episode 6, Mistaken Identity. Will and Carlton wind up behind bars when they drive a borrowed Mercedes to Palm Springs. They got pulled over by the cops, where they were then taken into question, where Will tells Carlton they'll be interrogated, so he should keep his answers short, where Carlton did not, and they were put behind bars. You can see it in the image right there. Inferiority theory can be applied, as Will goes on TV dressing goofily to convince the committing the crimes just to get his unaware aunt and uncle to come down to release them from jail. He did not take the situation seriously, so he simply made fun of the fact that they were behind bars, dressing goofily, which is him making fun of the entire situation to bring humor. Internalized racism was when Will felt inferior to his relative Carlton, simply because Carlton did not know the drill of being pulled over by cops as a black man. Racial stereotyping was them simply being black, which made the white police officers in this episode feel as if they were the thieves of the vehicles, and they were also the thieves of many other crimes committed in the community at that time. Satire in black sitcoms have underlying racial issues that are often swept under the rug, and that was the entire point of this presentation. We address the issues of classism, internalized racism, and racial stereotyping with race and identity of the Fresh Prince in the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. We apply the inferiority theory slash the deprecating humor that Will Smith used to bring across these points. I hope you apply this to some other African American sitcoms in the future. And today I hope you learned something. Thank you.